In this video we'll be going over the continuation of the C# tutorials. Today we'll look at preventing data conversion exceptions with the TryParse methods. So we'll just do a few examples on that. So exceptions. So what is that exactly? So exceptions should be prevented when possible. You can use the TryParse methods to prevent exceptions as a result of the user entering invalid data. Excuse me, so basically we're preventing exceptions using the TryParse methods. So before we learn that, the parse methods, or you can think of it as a pass method, but the real name is parse. You can think of it that it passes something once again, so the parse methods throw an exception when you try to use them to convert numeric data. So the parse methods throw an exception when you try to use them to convert non-numeric data to a numeric data type. So for example, strings to a number type, such as an int, you'll get an exception. So if you use one of the parse methods to convert a text box controls text property in a number, there's always the possibility of an exception being thrown. After all, the user is free to enter anything they want into a text box control. So to handle the exceptions that are caused by the parse methods, we have so far we've been using the try catch statement, but basically you could probably use an else, an if you want. That's probably the best thing to do, is that try to use an else or an if. We'll talk about a different way here, I think. So although many exceptions happen for some reasons, basically we could, so that just moving on from that, so forget I said that. So so after using a parse method, or using a parse method to convert non-numeric data to a numeric data type, we'll throw an exception so we know that. So where an exception is predictable, you should write your code to prevent the exception. So it is a better programming practice to prevent an exception instead of allowing it to happen and then letting. That's what I was saying basically. So use an if or an else. You can use a boolean to do that. I'll show you guys how to do that. So instead of allowing that to happen, basically using an exception, checking if it's caught or not by using a try and catch statement or a try catch block to react to it. You should use try catch statements primarily for those exceptions that are beyond your control. So until now we've been simply allowing exceptions to happen and letting a try catch statement respond to them. So after reading the previous so after the previous discussion I just mentioned, so basically the reason why we haven't handled them this way is because you need to know how to use if and else conditionals and all that, else if, which we haven't discussed yet. So now that you know how to write if statements, so we've went over that, you can use a different family of methods in the .net framework known as TryParse methods. So haven't we already done that? Actually, nope, I don't think we have. So we've just done parse methods, so it's a little bit confusing. So now we have, so let me just make a note of that on the screen here. Sorry for that discussion. So basically we have something else called TryParse methods, which are different than parse methods, such as double.parse or int.parse or whatever. What else we have? Decimal.parse. So only 3 of them. I can't remember. I think there's only 3 of them so far. Because string we will use a toString, so it wouldn't be that. Let's have a sip of my drink here. Sorry. Okay, so with the TryParse methods, you can determine whether a string, such as a controls text property, contains a value that can be converted to a specific data type before it is converted to that data type. So let's just have a look at that. Okay, so basically, it allows you to check that it can be converted before it actually does. I think that's what they're getting at with this. So maybe I'll just make a note of that here. So TryParse methods are used to check if the data can be converted successfully. Is that how you spell successfully? Yeah, I think so. Before it is actually converted, thus saving you from the exception state. So it wouldn't get to the try catch block in this case. It wouldn't reach there. So you're trying to prevent it from getting into an exception. You're trying to prevent it from throwing an exception, basically. So there's more types in C# that we haven't discussed, but we'll get to those later on. I'm assuming more GUI types such as like textbox dot, perhaps some other stuff, so we'll talk about that later on. But for now, we'll just stick with the same 3, which are int.tryParse to convert a string to an int. So it's the same thing. You can just think of, actually no, this is different. So instead of int.parse, it's int.tryParse. You can just say that you're trying to pass it. What happened there? Okay, so what happened there? So you're trying to, so you can think of the try here, so try int.tryParse. So you're trying to pass it as an int. So you can think of that. Converts a string to an int, so you're trying to pass it as an int. Instead of int.parse, which is you're passing it as an int. So it's the step before you're actually passing it, you're trying to pass it, so if that makes sense. It hasn't been passed yet, you're trying to see if it can be passed. I wouldn't be surprised if it returns a boolean, we'll see. It may return an int or something, 1, 0, or -1 to see if it's successful or not. When you create your own methods, you can do that. You can decide, okay, well, I want to return a boolean, true or false. If it was passed, if it was successfully passed, I'll return true. If it was failed, or if it failed, you can return a false, or you can say, okay, I want to return an int. If it's successful, I'll return 1. If it's unsuccessful, I'll return -1, and yeah, maybe there's just 2 states in that case. No 0 then, no third option, or third case. You could return a decimal if you really want 1.0 or -1.0, probably not. You could think of maybe some other way to return it. That's just what I can think of right now. So again, we have the same for the rest of them. So double dot TryParse, which converts, or tries to convert. The definition is, for the definition at least, is which is, so the double dot TryParse converts a string to a double. Decimal dot TryParse converts decimal to a string to a decimal. Basically, it tries to. We'll see what it returns here in a sec. So I think you have to. So the notation is the function, the actual function or method call is like this: int dot TryParse. Pass in a string has the first parameter. Second, you have to return this out keyword, I think. So you say out target variable. So that could just be another parameter, I guess. So in the general format, a string is a string that you want to convert. So in the general notation, string here, which is basically just string or str or whatever. So the string in the first parameter here, I'll just highlight that. If you guys can see that. String right there, the first parameter, because the parameters are in these parentheses here. First parameter is going to be the first parameter, and then the second one's going to be after the first comma. So you can put them like this, no spaces between the comma and the second parameter, or you could have a space like this. You can put a comma like that, whatever you want. I usually do it like this, or like this. So it's up to you. Sometimes this is better. Just depends. Whatever you want. Some people probably do that, I don't. It's up to you. So in the general format, string is a string that you want to convert, and target variable is the name of an int variable. Alright, just have another sip of my drink here. Sorry about that. Actually, maybe from now on I won't tell you guys when I'm having a sip of my drink, and I'll just take a sip. Is that what other YouTubers do? I have no idea. Maybe they edit that stuff out. Alright, so after that, so basically once again, in the general notation, string is a string that you want to convert. And target variable is the name of an int variable. So target variable right here is the name of an int variable. So we could maybe just change this a little bit more. In .tryparse, we're passing in a str, comma, out, int var. Right, because this is int.tryparse, so we're trying to pass it as an int. So str, comma. Sorry, so we're trying to pass it as an int, so it takes parameter str, which is a string, so it takes a string parameter as the first parameter, comma, and the second parameter you have to include this out keyword, I think, space, and then your int variable that it's going to convert, I guess, to, or perhaps. So yeah, we'll do some practice of this coming up. So the method tries to convert the string argument to an int If the conversion is successful, the converted value is stored in the target variable, and the method returns the Boolean value true. Okay, so it returns a Boolean. So if the conversion is successful, the converted value is stored in the target variable. That's what I thought. So this is just like an int val. So once again, if the conversion is successful, so let's just say the method call was successful, the converted value, which is going to be this string that you're converting, is going to be passed. So you're going to try to pass it as an int. So if it's successful, then the string that you're passing will be stored in this int val memory location. Right, so if the string's like a string literal 5, we'll talk about this coming up. So if we have a string literal 5, then it'll be converted to 5, which will be stored in int val. Stores 5. That makes sense. So TryParse methods return a Boolean, which is bool, I guess. So it returns a Boolean value. True, obviously, to indicate the conversion was successful. If the conversion... Okay, so it doesn't, so it's kind of tricky, actually. Perhaps in C you can do this. Well, I know in C you can do this. I'm not 100% sure. It seems like you can do it in C# in this case. Don't quote me on that though, but in this method at least, if the conversion is not successful, the method does not throw an exception. Instead, it stores 0 in the target variable. So 0 can be represented by false. Okay, actually, so what it does is, it actually just 100% returns a Boolean. So if I'm confusing anyone, the reason is, it stores 0 in the target variable, but it returns the Boolean value false to indicate that the string could not be converted. So let's probably jot that down here. So the TryParse method returns a Boolean. One sec here. Sorry about that. Okay, so what's actually happening here is, so TryParse methods return a Boolean value, or just a Boolean. That's all you need to know. So the TryParse methods return a Boolean. So true if successful. Successful is only one L. Okay, successful. I forgot. So successful, the method does not throw an exception. So basically, true if successful, false if not successful. Yeah, I knew it had a 1L, I just forgot. And then it stores 0. I don't write S's anymore, so coders don't know how to spell, they just make up their own words, obviously. Alright, so false if successful, false if, so once again true, so returns a Boolean. True if successful, false if not successful, and it stores 0 in the target variable. So let me just put that on the next line then. It stores 0 in the target variable. Probably just to satisfy that, just to make sure that that value out has something. They didn't have to do that. perhaps maybe they don't want a null pointer exception or something. We'll talk about that later on. So that's pretty much most of it. So remember that the keyword out appears before the target variable. The out keyword is required. So in some methods, I think we may have seen this already once or twice. I forgot where, but the out method is required. That means you have to write it. When I first learned C#, I didn't know that. I thought it was just a notation, but you actually have to write out space then the target variable. Okay, so we have so the out keyword is required, and it specifies that the target variable is an output variable. An output variable is a variable that is passed as an argument to a method. So an output variable is a variable that is passed as an argument to a method, and when the method is finished, a value is stored in that variable. Because the TryParse methods return either true or false, they are commonly called as the Boolean expression in an if statement. So let's do a code example here. A few code examples. Okay, let's do a few code examples here, about 3 small ones. So the code example here uses the int.tryParse method. So we can assume that the text box is the name of a text box control. So obviously, yeah, so just assume that. So we have example 1 here. So int val. So if int.tryParse, then remember, basically once again we're calling a method call. So since this method returns true or false, we can use it in a conditional. So if int.tryParse, passing in, what do we say? Input textbox.text. Or we just go with textbox.text. Out val. So this is saying, okay, well, if the int.tryParse method, which takes parameter textbox.text as a string, and the out, so the target variable is out val, so it's going to convert the int. This is going to convert the textbox.text to an int. It's going to try to convert. So it's going to try to pass this string, which is a textbox.text, to the target variable out val, which is an int. As an int, basically, yeah, so as an int. So it's going to try to pass this textbox.text, which is a string, to an out val, which is an int. And that's going to return a true or false. So if this returns a true, which means it was successful, then we'll continue into the block and say it's message box dot. Whoops. So message box dot show successful. So it's a little tricky. You'll get used to it though. You'll just come up with it. You'll say, okay, well I want to do this. How can I do that? Well, then you'll be like, okay, well I can just say if this method here returns true, then I can proceed into the block. You could have also just done a call up here, int dot try. So you could have perhaps, what else could we have done? We could have maybe just called this up here. So basically, yeah, so you could have just called this up here. And you could have checked if val maybe was not null, or you could have said, okay, you could have done this. Okay, if val does not equal to 0, then you could have proceeded. It's up to you how you want to do it. I probably would have went with this way just because I'm used to that. But maybe this way would have worked too. It's just up to you. So it's, see how you can do the exact same thing in two different ways. It's just up to you. So so you said int.tryParse textbox.text out val. So this val's either gonna store a value in int or it's not. Because if it's not, well, it's gonna store an int either way. But if it's gonna store 0 if it wasn't successful, right? And it's gonna store the int if it was successful, which could be any number other than 0. So basically then you could have said, okay, well if val does not equal to 0, that means it was successful. I probably would have taken that route. It's up to you. Some people, that just comes naturally to me for some reason. Some people, this might come naturally to you. It's just up to you what you want to do. It's good to practice both ways, or however many ways, just so you start getting used to everything else. But the same thing here works the exact same way, so it's up to you how you want to do it. So if int.tryParse passing in this string and the target variable out val, which means if this method returns true, then we'll proceed into the block, proceed into the code block. Message box.show successful, else, so if it was false, so if this was then false, you either could have just done nothing here, you could have just had, okay, well, if it was false, then it didn't enter this block of code. Then we could have just said, okay, well, if it didn't enter the block of code, well, then we just want to do this. You don't have to put an else here, but in that case, if you want to put an else here, you can. To assert that, okay, if it was false 100%, then I want to just do an else just in case. I don't want to get some random code in there. So message box. Then you could say, okay, well, message box dot show failed. Something like that. So once again, the purpose was trying to convert this code example. The purpose of that was to convert the value of the text box. Controls text property to an int and assign that value to the val variable. we already talked about what already happened here. So yeah, so return 0 if it was unsuccessful once again. Or not return 0, but returns false and the target variable stores 0. So don't get confused at a return 0. So that can be confusing as well. So I think we'll just take a break here and come back. Video's getting kind of long here, half an hour. We're pretty much done, to be honest. We could just go over decimals, the decimal and the double example. Actually, maybe I should just do that in one go here. So basically I have a few more examples here, which is just so here let's just go talk about the general notation of the. So let's go up, let's just go here, example 2. So there's going to be some more notes here though, I think. So double dot TryParse string comma out target var. This should be the exact same thing in the general format. String is the string that you want to convert, and target variable is the name of a double variable. If the string can be converted to a double, its value is stored in the target variable. And the method returns a Boolean value true to indicate that the conversion was successful. If the conversion was not successful, the method stores 0 in the target variable and returns a Boolean variable false to indicate that the string could not be converted. Excuse me, so yeah, that's exactly the same thing. So I think it's exactly 100% the same thing. So if minus the type change, so we have if here. So let's say here we have if double dot parse passing in text box dot, actually sorry, before that we have something up here, double val. So if double dot TryParse text box dot text, first parameter, second parameter, double val. So if double dot TryParse then takes parameter text box dot text comma second parameter double val, then if it was true, then we'll say message box dot show successful. Else, which means that we returned false. So then message box dot show in that case failed. So that's it here. One more. Sample 3 for just the decimal dot TryParse. Decimal dot TryParse passing in string comma out target string. Sorry, target variable, which is the decimal. Okay, so then the example is, why did it do that? Okay, so we have, I think this is exactly the same. I don't know why they wrote this thing out like 3 different times. But we have here, so decimal val. So we're declaring a variable here, decimal val. If decimal val, if decimal dot TryParse textbox.text. So if decimal.TryParse passing in textbox.text, comma out a decimal val, messagebox.show success, otherwise messagebox.show failed. And that's pretty much it. So we're gonna end it there for now. I think that's pretty much all the notes on that. We'll probably do an example, perhaps a better example with the GUI, and then we'll probably do a longer example in a lab. So thanks for watching, guys. And this, so hopefully you guys liked the video. If you guys liked the video, you can like and subscribe to the channel to support the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.